Hey, everyone, Edward O'Daniel here with the veteranlandlord.com, and it's just a beautiful day, so I'm coming to you with some education here. So right now, I'm going to be covering today 18 common mistakes that I see landlords make. And sometimes landlords make these mistakes because they're not aware of them. So because they're not aware of them, they end up making the mistake. So again, these 18 mistakes are not the only mistakes that landlords make. I'm sure there's, the mistakes could be numbering in the hundreds. But right now, I just wanted to point out 18 on this presentation. Forgive me, we are going to be covering a lot of information, so I've kind of made some little cheat sheet notes over here. So forgive me if you see me cheating and looking over here at my notes. But let's get started here because I wanted to create these videos here. And our mission at the Veteran Landlord is just really to help educate landlords and to make them be profitable in their rental portfolio and the management of their rental portfolios. I see a lot of landlords who they get into the business, they honestly don't know what they're doing, they didn't get the training, and as a result, they make these mistakes and several others. And the problem with that is that these mistakes cost them so much money that they have no choice but to get out of the business because they didn't account for how much money they would need, or they didn't buy the property right, or some other form of mistake. But if you are a landlord and you are interested in being the best landlord and eventually taking your business from buying rental properties all the way to actually being a business owner, where you have other people managing your rental portfolio while you just reap the financial benefits, check us out at theveteranlandlord.com. That's our mission. That's what we're here for, is to help out the self-managed landlord build a rental property management business to manage their properties. So here we go. Number one on our list of 18 common mistakes is not obtaining and keeping proper insurance. So, and by the way, these 18 are not in any specific order. They're just kind of random. So if I bounce back and forth, please forgive me, but all 18 do have a matter of relevance that I've seen as I am reading news groups and reading Facebook groups that I see people happen over and over again. But not obtaining and keeping proper insurance, this is one of them. Now, if you're a landlord and you're getting into the rental property business, most of the time you're going to be financing a property. There are some people that can go buy properties outright. That's perfectly fine. But one of the things you need to make sure is that you have the proper insurance from the day you purchase the property. You need to let your insurance agent know. By the way, your insurance agent should be a part of your team. And if you're interested in building a team, check out our other video on the Veteran Landlord YouTube channel about the team members and how to build your landlord management team and who you should have on that. But your insurance agent is definitely one of them. So contact your insurance agent and make sure that you get this thing covered from day one. You want to make sure that this thing is covered on the closing day before you close, because who knows, you don't even want to let an hour, a day, an hour, or anything else go by, because you don't know what's going to happen to the property during that time frame, and the last thing you want to do is not be covered. So two types of insurance I really want to kind of talk about here. There's going to be homeowners insurance. Now, homeowners insurance typically just covers the property, any damage, if you have a fire, a tree falls on it, or tornadoes, depending on where you're at in the country, floods, if you have those kinds of things. Flood insurance may be different. And again, I'm not an insurance expert. Please contact them, but I do know there's two types of insurance that the landlord should have. Number one, you should have a property insurance against the property. That's typically going to be a non-owner occupied policy. And these policies are going to be a little bit more expensive than your homeowner's policy just because it is a rental property. That's just the way it is, and that's what you're going to see. So go ahead and expect that. So that type of policy covers any damage to the property and stuff like that. So that's one type of insurance. The other type of insurance that I don't see people getting is sort of an extended liability policy. This is where landlords really need to make sure, this is the key, put a little asterisk if you're taking notes on this, but this is the key part of insurance. Now, your homeowner's policy does cover some standard policies. It might have $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 kind of liability policy in case somebody falls or hurts themselves and sues you. That is not going to be anywhere near good enough. As a landlord, you want to know that the insurance that you get, that is sort of your protection against people suing you. People are always going to, you may very well always end up in a lawsuit from somebody tripping and falling, slipping on ice if you live in that kind of environment, or falling down some stairs. You just never really know. So your insurance is your first line of defense. The lawyers or anybody else that's going to defend somebody is going to go after the payout that insurance company will give them right off the bat, and not come after your personal assets. So besides the small amount of liability policy that you get with the homeowners, one of the things I would recommend is definitely getting like a balloon policy or an extended liability coverage policy that will go to $1 million or even higher. I know personally I cover at least $2 million on a balloon policy because we own several properties. So right now we just want to make sure that the more properties you own, the more risk of liability that you have. So please keep that in mind. This is one of the things that people, again, landlords don't do, is they don't include that additional liability insurance, and it's not really that expensive. I mean, we're only talking a couple $100 a year or something like that, I believe, what we pay on our policy for just an extended liability coverage. And it's always there, just kind of like a warm blanket protecting you, if that makes sense. So looking at my notes real quick here. So that's really about it. That's the biggest mistake I see people getting is, oh, and I'm sorry, also on the homeowner's policy, not getting the right type of coverage. So I wanted to bring this up because those people who own properties free and clear and those people that have mortgages against their property, typically, if you have a mortgage against your property, you're going to need to cover what they call replacement cost insurance, and that's going to be a lot more expensive. So, even though you bought the property for, say, $100,000, and I'm just giving an example, the replacement coverage on there may be $180,000 or even $200,000, depending on the current conditions of the market in your area. So that replacement cost is really like if a tornado knocked your house down and totaled it, what would it cost to completely rebuild the structure, electric and everything? So I think typically right now, new construction for that is maybe anywhere between 120 and 150 a square foot, 120 to $150 a square foot. So just to rebuild a house is going to cost you more than necessarily what the house is worth. But because of that, that replacement cost insurance is going to be high. And a lot of times mortgages are going to require that. Mortgage companies are going to require that you have replacement costs. Whereas a lot of other landlords don't know that on this, when you have a property free and clear, forgive me, it's going to be talking a lot here, but when you own a property free and clear, you don't have to have replacement coverage on the property. That was one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. You do if you want to completely rebuild the house, but if you're dealing with the property that, let's just say, it may be a type of property, well, if that property burned down or a tornado knocked it over, you may not want to rebuild. You just may want to recoup your investment in that property, in which case you might want to have some form of a cash policy, where if it got totaled, the insurance company would just write you a check for a certain amount of money, and then you could cover all of your expenses on that particular property, recoup everything, and you're good to go. Now, of course, you would still have to do something with the land and so forth, but I mean, worst case, you could probably end up giving that away or something. But anyway, those are the types of insurance policies that I want to help you out with, because as we're going to talk about here a little bit later on, not knowing your numbers is going to be another one that we're going to get into. And insurance is going to be a key factor when it comes to knowing your numbers. This is depending on the insurance cost. Difference between $80 a month and $150 a month, is a significant difference when you're trying to factor out your numbers here. If you could potentially save that much money or pay out that much money, that's less in potential cash flow that you as a landlord can make from your particular property. So it's just something to think about. Okay, so that was mistake number one, is not obtaining and keeping proper insurance. Awesome.